there's been an outpouring of support on social media for Orlando. People have been posting online symbols of love and LGBT pride in honor of the victims. The hashtag #LoveWins with a rainbow-colored heart is also trending on Twitter. There you can see once you put that hashtag into your tweets, a little rainbow heart appears. New York Representative Sean Maloney, who is a co-chair of the Congressional LGBT Equality Caucus, is with us now. Congressman Maloney, thank you so much for being here on such a difficult day. You are openly gay. What do you make of this targeted attack on a gay nightclub in the middle of Pride Month?
Well, it's an unmistakable message that this is about hate, and it's obviously targeted at my community. But of course, you know, this is something that all Americans need to be concerned about across all our lines of difference. And there are three distinct issues that we need to come to terms with here. Obviously, one is anti-LGBT animus and hatred, but this is also a terrorist act. And in addition to that, it raises very serious questions about gun violence in America. And I think we need to have a serious and respectful conversation about all of those issues as we go forward. I think today, as victims are still fighting for their lives in the hospital, I hope that all of us, particularly in positions of public authority, come together and remember what unites us, which is that we all respect these freedoms, and we respect that all Americans should be safe in places like this. My husband and partner of 24 years and I met in line at a club just like this. This is not some abstraction, and it shouldn't be for anyone who expects to be able to go out freely and live their lives in our country. This is Disneyland. This could be anywhere in America, and we should all come together, especially in the early hours here, to remember what unites us.
Congressman, I'm wondering, as a member of the House of Representatives, what are the questions that you have right now regarding the investigation?
Well, I'm very concerned that this individual seems to have had a record of domestic abuse, that this is a person that had been twice investigated by the FBI and yet somehow was able to walk in and buy an AR-15 within the last few days and the ammunition necessary to carry out this attack. You have 103 people who've been shot by a single individual. That's extraordinary. And we need to ask tough questions about that. And I wouldn't prejudge anything. I don't know who did what, and we should find out.
Yeah, Congressman, for a lot of Americans who are learning about this news, the idea that this shooter consulted or had some kind of connection with an American suicide bomber who ultimately blew himself up raises a huge red flag, and understanding clearly that the FBI, for whatever reasons, and as you point out, this is early in the investigation, chose to clear him, but that allowed him then to buy a weapon, a firearm. Do you think that there's a loophole that was exploited there and that perhaps something should change?
Well, I don't know, and we need to be careful until we know the facts. But obviously there are serious questions, and you raised several of them. How is it that someone who has had contact with a known terrorist and who has been investigated by the FBI and who has a record of domestic violence can be allowed, with no questions asked apparently, to buy a military-style assault weapon and get it immediately, no waiting period, and no background check, which triggers a look back by those investigative agencies? We need to connect those dots a lot better because had those dots been connected in real time, or had this individual had to wait a period of time to get this kind of weapon, you would not have an event of this nature in the most likely scenario. So I'd like to have an answer to all those questions. But of course, we have broader issues as well, right, having to do with closing background check loopholes and federal gun trafficking laws, and the use of these weapons, and the fact that people who have criminal records and records of domestic abuse and who have mental illness have ready access in many cases to these weapons. We can do better on this.
Congressman, I want to ask you about what the reaction has been that you've experienced. We saw on social media the outpouring of support and emotion for people affected by this. What kind of response have you received in the wake of this shooting?
Well, you know, this is Pride Month, and if Pride Month means anything, I mean, if we've fought for decades for anything, it is to be able to love one another freely. And all Americans should care about that. And being able to love one another isn't just something that we should have to fight for, or it's something we should want. It's something that Scripture calls us to do, and to be proud about that. This is what Pride Month is for those of us in the community. And I think this is an assault on all of that. But I'll tell you what, I hope my community responds the way those victims in Charleston, South Carolina did to a very similar episode of hate, where they responded with dignity and with love. And they said, this attacker is not going to define us. We are not going to let the hatred of these individuals, even if inspired from abroad, even if it's a terrorist act, those actions are not going to define us as a community. We are going to respond with greater love and greater tolerance, and we're going to get answers for these questions about why this can happen on our soil, how someone like this has access to these weapons, and how to prevent it.
Congressman, you raise a great point. As Elaine points out, there have been vigils for the victims of Orlando. We've seen people gathering at Stonewall here in New York City, which is sort of many people consider the birth of the gay rights movement. You point out the atrocity that happened in South Carolina. In a time when many people think that we've moved beyond race, that we're living in a post-racial society, that we're living in a society where anybody can be free to love who they want. Clearly, when we see incidences like this, we realize we're really not that far. And is it your estimation that there's still a very long road ahead?
That's right. And of course, we're in the best of times and the worst of times in some ways. You yourselves are reporting right now on another individual in another part of the country who apparently has no connection to Islamic terrorism, who apparently had explosives in his car on the way to a gay pride event. That's a very disturbing fact. And of course, this issue is broader than simply the war against ISIS and the war on terror, as important as that is. This is an issue of gun violence also, but on the issue of anti-LGBT violence, it is legal in a majority of American states to fire Americans for no other reason than they are gay or lesbian. We have had a spirited debate in the House of Representatives just in the last 2 weeks on whether to roll back existing protections that President Obama has put in place to protect LGBT Americans in the workplace. What kind of message does that send? And a member of the Republican caucus read a piece of scripture suggesting that gays were worthy of death. That happened in the United States Congress, not somewhere else.
That happened this week?
That happened less than a week ago in the United States Congress. Now, I would not equate that action with anything that happened in Orlando or the actions of these terrorists. But to your point that we've got work to do, those of us who've made so much progress and are so proud of that need to remember that, and along with our straight allies, that this is not over until Americans are truly free to work and to socialize and to move around their own country without the fear of being targeted and killed because of who they are.
All right, Congressman Sean Maloney, thank you so much, Congressman, for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.